waves of the Atlantic crash endlessly against the rocky coasts of Europe. It is the dawn of the 16th century. Christopher Columbus has crossed the ocean, and the Spanish crown now claims vast lands filled with gold and silver. Across the Pyrenees, in France, kings watch jealously. Spain grows rich. Portugal controls the spice trade. England begins to stir. France must not be left behind. Thus begins a saga of exploration, of ambition, of faith, and of conflict. A story of brave men who crossed unknown seas, of fragile colonies clinging to survival, of alliances with native peoples, and of wars that would decide the fate of a continent. This is the story of French exploration and colonization of the Americas. In 1524, King Francis I of France commissioned an Italian navigator, Giovanni da Verrazzano, to seek a new route to Asia. Verrazzano crossed the Atlantic and sailed along the coast of North America. He saw Cape Fear in the Carolinas, the great harbor of New York, and the rocky shores of New England. He met native peoples, some curious, others cautious. He described their dress, their canoes, their villages. But above all, he noted the potential of the land, fertile soil, vast forests, rivers flowing from the interior. He saw not gold, but opportunity. Verrazzano's maps and journals gave France its first claim to North America. Though little came of his voyage immediately, his reports planted the seeds of French ambition. A decade later, Jacques Cartier, a navigator from Brittany, was chosen by Francis I. His mission, to find a northwest passage to Asia. What he found instead was the gateway to the heart of North America, the St. Lawrence River. Cartier made 3 voyages. In 1534, he explored the Gulf of St. Lawrence, erecting a cross to mark French claims. In 1535, he sailed upriver, reaching the Iroquoian villages of Stadacona, Quebec, and Hochelaga, Montreal. He marveled at the rich lands and the hospitality of the people. But the harsh Canadian winter nearly destroyed his crew. On his 3rd voyage, he attempted a colony at Cap Rouge, but it failed. Still, Cartier left behind a powerful name. He recorded the Iroquoian word Canada, meaning village or settlement. From it, France named the land, Canada. Though Cartier never found Asia nor riches, he opened the St. Lawrence Valley, where one day New France would rise. And yet, for nearly a century, French colonization lay dormant. Why? Because France bled within itself. The 16th century was marked by the wars of religion between Catholics and Protestants. Civil war raged. Cities burned. Kings were assassinated. At sea, French privateers, corsairs harassed Spanish treasure fleets. But overseas colonies, they were too great a distraction. Meanwhile, Spain dug deep into the mines of Mexico and Peru. Portugal ruled Brazil. England planted Jamestown in 1607. France seemed destined to be left behind. But when peace returned, French kings looked westward once again. And this time, they would not turn back. In 1608, Champlain founded a settlement on the cliffs above the St. Lawrence. He called it Quebec. At first, it was little more than wooden houses and a storehouse. Winters were brutal. Disease took many lives. Supplies from France were uncertain. But Champlain persevered. He forged alliances with the Huron Confederacy. Together, they fought against the Iroquois. Champlain himself joined battles, firing his arquebus alongside his allies. He dreamed of a colony that was not just a trading post, but a true French society. Quebec became the heart of New France. From here, exploration would spread outward, into the forests, the Great Lakes, and beyond. France's empire in the New World was not built on gold or silver. It was built on fur. In Europe, the beaver pelt was in high demand for hats and garments. The forests of Canada teemed with them. French traders, coureurs de bois or runners of the woods, ventured deep inland. They traveled with canoes, built trading partnerships with native peoples, and often lived among them. Unlike the Spanish, who sought conquest, or the English, who built farms, the French model was different: trade and alliance. But it came at a cost. The fur trade bound New France's survival to fragile partnerships, shifting rivalries, and the goodwill of native allies. Wherever the French went, priests followed. The Jesuits were the most famous. They lived among native peoples, learning languages, writing dictionaries, describing cultures in letters that were later published in France as the Jesuit Relations. They sought to bring Christianity to the First Nations. Some succeeded. Others clashed with native traditions. Their accounts give us vivid portraits of life in the 17th century. But many Jesuits died as martyrs. Caught in wars, tortured by enemies, or lost to disease. Their mission was both a spiritual quest and a cultural encounter that forever changed New France. The French thirst for knowledge and trade pushed them farther into the continent than any other Europeans of the time. Étienne Brule lived among the Huron and was the first European to see the Great Lakes. Jean Nicolet ventured west, reaching Wisconsin. Louis Joliet and Jacques Marquette followed the Mississippi south in 1673, proving it flowed toward the Gulf of Mexico. And in 1682, René Robert Cavelier, Sieur de La Salle, descended the Mississippi to its mouth, claiming the entire valley for France. He named it Louisiana, after King Louis XIV. At its height, French America stretched from the Atlantic coast, through the St. Lawrence and Great Lakes, down the Mississippi, to the Gulf of Mexico. It was a continent-wide empire. Vast in size, fragile in strength. But what was life like for the people of New France? Settlers endured long winters, hunting, fishing, and farming in short summers. They grew wheat and rye, raised livestock, and built wooden homes to withstand the cold. The French crown encouraged settlement by sending the filles du roi, the king's daughters. These young women were given dowries and sent to marry settlers, helping to establish families in the new land. Society grew. Villages spread along the St. Lawrence. A unique culture emerged: the Canadians, shaped by French tradition, Catholic faith, and the rugged reality of the New World. Music, folk tales, and festivals blended with native influences, creating a distinct identity that still survives in Quebec today. But New France lived in constant danger. The Iroquois Confederacy, armed and supported by Dutch and later English traders, waged relentless war against French allies. Villages were burned, captives taken, trade routes cut. Meanwhile, to the south, the English colonies grew rapidly. By the 1700s, they outnumbered the French 10-1. The two empires clashed again and again in the French and Indian Wars. Colonial extensions of European conflicts. King William's War, 1689-1697. Queen Anne's War, 1702-1713. King George's War, 1744-1748. Each war left New France weakened, its population stretched thin across vast lands. The final blow came with the 7 Years' War, 1756-1763. Known in America as the French and Indian War, it pitted France and its native allies against Britain and its larger colonies. The decisive battle came in 1759, on the Plains of Abraham outside Quebec. French commander Montcalm faced British General Wolfe. Both men fell in battle. Both became legends. But Quebec fell. And with it, the fate of New France was sealed. By the Treaty of Paris in 1763, France ceded nearly all of its North American lands to Britain. An empire of 2 centuries vanished in an instant. And yet, New France never truly died. The French language still thrives in Quebec. French traditions shape Louisiana. French names dot the maps of the Great Lakes, the Mississippi, and beyond. The explorers, settlers, and missionaries left behind more than ruins. They left culture, language, faith, and memory. The French colonization of America was not just a quest for empire. It was a vision of partnership, of exploration, of survival in a vast and unknown world. Though the empire fell, its legacy endures. In the rivers, in the cities, and in the people who still call themselves French Americans. This was the story of France in the New World. A story of courage and ambition, of triumph and loss. A forgotten tale of history.